So this is actually the last one of the workshop, and we will talk a bit about writing a synopsis for the full proposal. So a synopsis is just a smaller than the full proposal. And then we'll also talk about writing an adequate biographical sketch. Okay. I'll tell you this, a synopsis is kind of, let's say that you have a full movie, 2-hour-long movie, but when they advertise the movie, they just advertise the trailer, like maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So the trailer will be the synopsis of your full protocol. It basically just summarizes what you're doing. The funders don't always ask you for a synopsis. They might ask you for the abstract or the summary, but that's different from the synopsis, because the abstract is usually maybe 300-400 words, while the synopsis is 2 to 6 pages long. What I use, sorry about that. What I use the synopsis for is to sell the idea. Let's say that I'm trying to present my idea to collaborators, like the Ministry of Health. I'm trying to get them to sign a letter of collaboration. I would present them with the synopsis as opposed to a full protocol. Or if I am maybe looking for experts to get an idea of if I'm actually aligned with the call for proposal that I'm going for, I can send them a synopsis and not the full proposal. So the synopsis is longer than an abstract. And it helps sometimes to come up with a synopsis before you have your full proposal. Okay. So when you write your synopsis, you follow the same format as the full proposal, well, except you don't have the abstracts or the table of contents, but you definitely have the title page, and you do it in 2 to 6 pages. So you might do, sorry, you might do the background and discussion, or you can call it the introduction, maybe in 1 or half a page, and then you might do the methodology in 1 page or 1.5 pages, and the rest in maybe 1 page. So you basically just condense everything, but at the same time, you condense everything, but you still need to tell the entire story, but just in a smaller format. So that is that's what I want to say on the synopsis. Now, in writing the bio sketch, I said earlier that, yesterday, that you really, really want to sell yourself. You want to sell yourself. You want to sell the research team that you're working with. That means that you have to, in your bio sketch, you have to highlight what makes you the good researcher that you are, in order to give confidence to somebody to believe in you to fund your research. So it takes about 1 to 3 paragraphs to write a bio sketch or a bio. But it should not be more than a page long, or like maybe half a page long. It's one page at one glance. They read about you and what you are about. The main purpose of it is to present yourself to the professional community to which you belong, and to present yourself in a good, marketable way. It's kind of like giving a picture of who you are professionally. So it's important to describe you don't have to describe every single thing you have ever done, but you really need to describe, to highlight the most important aspects of your work, especially when you have been recognized, and especially what you have done well. So here's an example, and I know it's a lot. I tried to fit it all in one page, but I had to do it this way so that you can see it at a glance. And this is something I completely made up, okay? This is not anybody I know. I made up everything. I made up the names, I made up the experiences. So it's not anybody I know. But if we actually have a little bit of time, I would love to share Professor Francine Toomey's bio sketch that I have seen somewhere. But I wanted to share one of an entry-level researcher. But it looks like we'll have time, so I will share Professor Toomey's. I believe I can still find it. So I'm going to read it, and I will talk about the information that I chose to portray here. Dr. Dina Mbiani received her PhD in molecular biology from the University of Kinshasa, DRC. Her research interests involve the development of a comprehensive understanding of key developmental pathways and how alterations in gene expression contribute to human disease. Dr. Mbiani's academic training and research experience to date have provided her with an excellent background in molecular biology and microbiology. While in high school, Dr. Dina Mbiani was awarded the DRC National Award for Young Leaders in Sciences. As a graduate student at the University of Kinshasa, she conducted research with Dr. Celestin Pango on the mechanism of action of a new class of antibiotics. This resulted in a co-authorship publication, as well as an invitation to present a poster at the annual Antibiotical meeting in Denver, Colorado. For her postgraduate training at the University of California, San Diego, she moved into the fields of genetics and biochemistry by studying the regulation of transcription in yeast under Dr. Tanti Alguri, an internationally recognized leader in the field of yeast genetics, and has an extensive record for training pre-doctoral and postdoctoral fellows. Dr. Mbiani's ambitions are to develop a novel protocol for the purification of for components of large transcription complexes. So this is a fictional person. The experiences are actually somebody else's experiences. Actually, not one person. I picked different people's experiences and put it together. What I was trying to show here is an entry-level researcher, so somebody who already has a PhD, but is still doing postdoctoral work. So somebody who is still much entry-level, that has not accomplished a lot in terms of her records as a researcher, but her journey up to this point shows her ambition. It shows that she has associated herself with experience and well-seasoned experts in her field. So you can see that even without accomplishing much in terms of her record as a researcher, you can still see how her bio sells her and can give confidence in a reviewer that is trying to assess her ability to conduct research in her particular field, which is microbiology. So this is an example of an entry-level researcher. I wanted to present an entry-level researcher so that it can be relatable by a large people from different from all over the spectrum of research. So that's an example of a bio sketch. If I have a little bit of time, I will look for Professor Tumi's bio sketch that I ran into a couple of days ago, and you will see the difference because she's extremely well accomplished. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the next steps. Now that we have spent about 2.5 days talking about writing successful, competitive grants, what can you do next to prepare yourself? Read. Read, 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 read. Get yourself familiar with the work that is out there in your field. Stay abreast of the progress of in your field. Different technologies, different approaches, different methodologies. For me, I lived in the US for 25 years. I studied there. I worked there for about 10 years, and then I moved to Cameroon about 10 years ago. So, sorry, I'm able to compare and contrast. I realized that we live in an environment where we don't have much. We are really behind in terms of the resources that are available to us. So it always feels like we're behind and we're trying to catch up. And hopefully one day we will catch up. But at the same time, I also see that sometimes we just lack the information that can help us to move forward. Sometimes it's just that we don't know. Like if we knew more, we would do more. So how do we learn more? It's by reading. Do your own research. Be out there. You can have an online subscription. It's free. Online subscription to different publications. I receive, every time the Lancet publishes a new review, a new publication, or what they call it, a new version of the journal, or a new page, I receive the information. And I take the time to read. I know it's not easy. Like I said, I can compare and contrast being a researcher here as to being a researcher over there. It's quite different from us because there's not enough of us. So I have to teach, I have to do research, I have to mentor, I had to supervise other people's research. At the same time, I had to write proposal to get my own grants because my university is not really set up to attract institutional grants. So it's a lot more for an African researcher, but at the same time, You have to stay on top of it. You just have to. You have to, if you want to succeed as a researcher, you have to stay on top of it. What I have learned is that when I plan my time, I have to plan some specific time for reading. Maybe it's an hour in the entire week. I could maybe block off on a Friday. I block off from 3 to 4. I don't do anything else. Just like you blocked off the time for this particular workshop on your calendar, you can block off the time for reading. Not only do you block it off, but you protect it. You protect that time. So that time that you block off for reading is just as important as any other appointment you have. You just have to prioritize. So read, and be on top of the information that is out there for your field. Right. I know we're not writers. If we were writers, we would have gone into literature. I know we are scientists, but writing is important. And you also have to choose what you want to do. Somebody told me one day is, do you want to be a research manager or do you want to be an investigator? There's the difference. Do you want to be a laboratory technician or do you want to be an investigator? There's a difference. Meaning that you have to get yourself to that point. You have to get yourself to the level where you're commending research work. And how do you do that? By writing. You don't just stay in the laboratory with your pipettes. You don't just stay in the clinic with your patients. You don't just stay in the field, maybe in the health district. You write. As a researcher, you have to write. You write for grant proposals, you write your research articles, you write reports all the time, you write emails all the time. You have to write. And I'm sorry to be blunt again, I'm sure in your questions, you will come after me again, but I have to say this. If you hate writing, this is not your career. You cannot be a researcher. You cannot be a researcher if you do not like writing. I'm being completely honest. Because even if somebody else does the writing, it will not have your tone. You can have somebody else do your writing, but it will not have your own personal tone. And you're trying to sell yourself. So you have to write. You have to write. Maybe when you get to be, I don't know, the chancellor of a university, you don't have to write. But me, I'm not there yet. So I had to write. I had to write. So write. If you don't like writing, learn to love writing, or else change your career. Yeah, engage. I've been speaking quite a bit about engaging. Go to meetings. Usually, if you are in academia, there is quite a bit that is organized by the university. Go meet people, network, go to conferences. There is quite a bit that goes on locally, and sometimes it's free. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit, but go. That's because that's where you engage with people. That's where you increase your visibility. That's where you learn what other people are doing. And that's how you get informed. And in terms of international conferences, okay, with the COVID-19 pandemic, everything is kind of shut down. But living in Africa for the last 10 years, I have gone to so many conferences for free. They're sponsored. They're sponsored. There are calls out there And you have to be aware, for different conferences, you submit your abstract, you get selected. In some instances, they have scholarships. They have scholarships, you apply. I cannot count how many, at least 2, 3, 4 times a year. I go to conferences and everything is taken care of. But you have to be involved to find out about these conferences. You have to be out there. And when you get to the conference, do not sit there like a fly on the wall. You are there to network. You are there to learn. You are there to see what other people are doing. If you are fortunate enough to present your work, sell your work. Sell your work. If you have a poster presentation, take the time to put a really good poster together and to sell it, because people come around and that's how you meet people. If you take somebody's business card, do not sit on the business card. Do not let 72 hours go by without writing to the person. You write, you send an email. It was so nice to meet you at such and such conference. I enjoyed your presentation on such and such and such, and I hope to keep in touch. Probably 50, 75% of the time, you won't get a response back, but it is still a way to reach out. It is still, it might just bite, but engage. When you go to conferences, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Put yourself out there. Go meet people. Shake hands. And for the French speaking, my French speaking researchers, you have to, if you're not comfortable with English, take English classes. The language of science is English. It's not French, it's English. Even the Chinese that are usually extremely proud in terms of their culture, their heritage, when they're speaking science, they're speaking in English. So English is really key for those that are French speaking, and I'm speaking about in Africa. So I could also say the same thing about the Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking. The language of science is English. When I was doing my PhD, one of my my professors basically said that you have to be in love. You have to be in love with your research subject, with your research topic. If you have a project in mind, talk about it, present it to people, and they may just have similar interests than you, or they might tell you some things that will spark different interests in your mind. So talk about your projects. Social media, I said earlier, it was a tool. It's kind of like a knife. You can use a knife in a good way. You can use a knife in the bad way. I deplore how social media is used badly, but I really don't think that we should stay away from social media, because this is the information age that we are living in. You have to use social media. Post some things, post your work. This workshop, for those of you who use WhatsApp, I have already put on my status that I am facilitating a workshop on grant writing. And for people that see my my WhatsApp status, it might spark something in them. For people that may be interested in the same type of work, they will ask me questions. So use social media and use it wisely. Make yourself visible. Make yourself visible as a researcher. Yesterday and today, there are quite quite a few number of questions in terms of how do we learn about call for proposal. It's by being visible, by being connected to people, because information is shared. So learn how to position yourself to be efficient in the way you're visible, and use networks to get the information. And don't be shy. I know, oh my goodness, I know that in our culture, it's actually frowned open to sell yourself, because people will say, she's boasting. Who does she think she is? But there's no way that you can there's no way that you can attract grants if you're not visible. If you're not visible. So it's a hump. It's a hump that we have to just get over. Make yourself visible. Be out there, even if it's completely against everything that you have learned. Records, meaning documents. Documents everything that you do. If I show you my notes on my phone, you will be surprised. And I write all the time with my phone these days, because my phone seems to be attached to my hand. And see, I'm using it right now as a timer. So my phone seems to be attached to my hand. I record everything. Sometimes I have an idea and I'm not in a position to write or to actually type it on my phone. I will use the voice function to record my idea, so that I don't forget, and I can come back to it, and that sparks other things. Like really get in the habit to document your thoughts. So keep a record of what you have done, so far, and keep a record of it in such a way that you yourself can understand it, and also that somebody else can understand it. And I know that in some instances we as African scientists, we don't think about intellectual property, but it's a real thing. If you have an idea, it's an original idea, you have to record it to protect it, because easily it can be taken by somebody else and be sold by somebody else. So keep that in mind, that when you have ideas, you keep a record of it. Because if somebody else does it, then you can show a record that on such and such date it was my idea. Those are things to keep in mind. The next thing is to plan. I spoke earlier of how even in the process of writing a grant, I approach it as a project with a beginning and an end, with objectives, with specific tasks, with a timeline. So when you think this way, you become a lot more systematic in how you approach things, and give yourself a goal. Give yourself a goal. Right now, I believe Leonard talked about registering with the Global Health Networks. That is a network that has information. It has information about different things that are going out there in terms of health research, and it particularly have information about how to build your own capacity as a researcher in the different research fields. So this is a tool that you can use. And so once you have connected, you know where to get the grants. And I just realized that I had promised to send the list of COVID. Let me write it down so I don't forget. COVID calls. I'll do it at the end of this module, right before the questions. So once you are connected to these different networks and you see where the calls are, maybe you can foresee where they're coming. Commit to submitting a research proposal in the next 6, 9, 12 months, but commit yourself and make it a goal for yourself. The calls are out there. They really are. They really are out there. It's really there for the taking. But you cannot just wake up one day and you say, okay, I'm applying for this. You have to prepare, you have to plan, go through the steps that we spoke about since yesterday. Now, don't forget the small grant. I said yesterday, my very first grant, meaning my own as a principal investigator, was for $14,000. It's not much in the big scheme of grants, because, you know, when you're talking about big grants, you're talking about millions of dollars. But that 14,000, I was extremely proud of it. And I did the work. It was for a year, for 12 months. It was for WHO TDR. It was actually a high profile grant, even though it was for a small amount of money. But, and the results from it, I published, and it actually helped me to build on that particular grant and apply for a bigger one. So do not neglect the small grants. They look small, but they are a lot easier to get funded than the bigger ones. So especially, I'm particularly talking about the entry level researchers, do not neglect those. Do not neglect those. If you apply for one, you get one, even if it's for $5,000 US. You do the work, you do it well, it's a publication, and the publication makes you what? Visible. The last thing here is to join a research team and integrate the team plans. And I know it's quite difficult, because usually when you see a team, it's already set up, and they already have their own way of working together. But that does not mean that is impossible. It doesn't mean that is impossible. Everything these days is done in collaboration. You cannot stay as a researcher, and you said you want to build a career as a researcher and work on your own. It's impossible these days. These days, you really have to collaborate, and that's how you learn. So join a research team. The last thing is to take good care of yourself. Yes, it's important. It's important in preparing yourself to writing your next grant. You have to rest. You have to rest. I said that you have to schedule time to read. You also have to schedule time to rest. Sometimes we think that we are superhuman beings and supermen and superwomen, and it's not always that. Your brain needs to rest. If your brain is rested, it works better. Do not procrastinate. Do not wait for the last time, the last minute, and then you end up rushing. And in the end, when you rush, you don't have a good product. You don't have a good product, so you present a not so good product. Diet, exercise, sleep. Manage your time well. Manage your time well. Protect your time. And sometimes it's you might have to be not very nice to some people, but you have to protect your time. There are sometimes, and I mean, and I'm talking to even the entry level people that may not have the confidence to say no, but sometimes you have to say no because somebody asked you for something that was not planned for, and you just don't have time to do it. You have to protect your time, because you have to take good care of of yourself and of your time. All right, so we have a little bit of time before taking questions. Give me, I think I can take 1 minute to look for Professor Tumi's bio. I was very impressed. If it's okay, Bunny?
I think it's okay.
Certainly, Sylvie.
All right, just 1 minute.
And then, Leonard, I think we've got plenty of time now just for some questions and a couple of raised hands in our participant audience as well. So thank you everyone for sending your questions in. Our Q&A box is very lively.
Yeah, that's right. It's very lively and exciting questions.
Okay, can you see my screen? But you can see my video, can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't see your
All right. Okay. So I'm just going to read it so that we can have the experience of a entry level, and then compare and contrast it to very, very established. Like I said, the other one was completely made up. This one is real. So after earning her PhD, Professor Francine Toumé began her molecular immunology and epidemiology research work on malaria at the Pasteur Institute of Paris. She took a position in Franceville, Gabon as a researcher at the International Center for Medical Research in 1995 and remained there until 2000. That year, she became the head of laboratory at the Medical Research Unit of the Albert Schweitzer Hospital in Lambaréné, Gabon, and the Institute of Tropical Medicine, University of Tübingen. She remained in these positions until 2005. Between 2006 and 2007, Professor Toumé was the scientific director of the European and Developing Countries Clinical Trial Partnership, EDCTP, located in The Hague, Netherlands. She then led the Secretariat of the Multilateral Initiative Against Malaria in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, until 2010 as its first African leader. Professor Toumé has worked to reinforce the African continent's public health research capacity through efforts coordinating the Central African Network on Tuberculosis, HIV, and Malaria, CANTAM. She's a member of many scientific committees, including the Global Health Scientific Advisory Committee of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She's the president of the Congolese Foundation for Medical Research, which she founded in 2008, which helped to establish the University Merengwabi first laboratory for molecular biology. Professor Toumé is a senior lecturer at the University of Merengwabi and has also been an associate professor at the University of Tübingen since 2010. Since 2014, she has been a professor and researcher at the Merengwabi University. Professor Toumé was the first Sub-Saharan African woman to receive the George Foster Prize for her work creating networks to combat infectious diseases across Africa. She has also been lauded for her leadership and education of scientists across Sub-Saharan Africa. Professor Toumé has also been awarded a fellowship of African Academy of Science. Professor Toumé has published over 30 peer-reviewed papers in journals, including Procedures of National Academy of Science of the United States of America, PNAS, and Nature Genetics. So when I ran into this yesterday, at first I wanted to present it as an example of a bio, but I thought that we would learn more first with an entry-level bio so that we can see how an entry-level person can also sell herself. So with this one, I am odd. I am completely odd. But you see how you can write a bio to sell yourself. You can write a bio and bring up and highlight the those aspects of your professional journey that have made you who you are, and that can give a reviewer and a founder confidence in funding your work. So I just wanted to share that, and I can take questions now if that's okay.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Sylvie.
Thank you.
It's great as usual. And we are going to do it this way.
I've been speaking too much and my throat gets dry.
It's normal. We are going
Go
to do it
ahead.
this way. We will present some of the questions and then you will give the feedbacks. Then we will switch to the hands that have been raised, and Bonnie is going to take care of that. And we're going to fluctuate in that mood so that it should be exciting and should flow. So
okay, how much time do we have, just so that I know what to expect?
I think we have 30 minutes. We have 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Good.
So, okay. So let me start with the first question. Okay. Anyway, I'll take it from below. It's an anonymous attendee. Can a graduate be the principal investigator when there are other more senior colleagues in the research team? That's the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have been the PI in grants where I have my chief of department as a collaborator. So a junior person can definitely be a PI for your grants with more senior colleagues as collaborators. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if it's your own research, hold on one second, Leo. Sorry. If it's your own research idea, it makes sense for you, even if you're a junior, to lead the work. If it's your own, and if you are qualified and you are able to lead the work, because the PI is the leader of the work.
Okay, Finya Toshibi, I recently had a very bad experience with a senior investigator that I wanted to collaborate with. I shared my concept with them and they went ahead and submitted my concept and even got funding without me knowing. So how do you advise us to mitigate such as we set out to collaborate in research?
Okay, so that's really not fair, and it happens a lot more than it should. It happens a lot more than it should, and it's really not fair. But how do you prove it? That's why it was important to record. If for example you have a record of you sending an email with your research idea, or maybe being in a meeting and there was a minutes from that meeting of you sharing your research idea, then you can fight it. And I would say at least say something. At least say something. I don't know if you in your institution there is a process to complain, but you really should. You should at least say something. Say something to the person. Complain to a higher up, because it's not fair.
Okay, Giruk from Gabon. Should we highlight our previous awarded grants in our bow sketch?
Oh,
then
yeah. Definitely.
He also asks another question, still in the same line. Is a bow sketch under, is it like your CV? Can it replace your CV?
No. A bio sketch is not your CV. A bio sketch is one page at one glance. Your CV is much longer, because in your CV, you have a lot more detail in terms of your education, in terms of your professional experience, your publications, everything goes in your CV. A bio sketch is just one page. It's like a sales pitch for who you are professionally. So it's not a CV, and it should not replace a CV. If you're asked for a CV, provide a CV. If you ask for a bio sketch, provide a bio sketch.
Okay, Asonsa Carol, she wants to know the difference between a bio sketch and a cover letter or motivation letter.
Okay. Well, first of all, the bio sketch is not written in form of a letter. So meaning that you don't say dates to such and such from such and such in regards to such and such, that's a letter, and then you sign it at the end. About sketch is just those paragraphs. It can be 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, as long as it fits in one page. A letter of motivation, if they ask you for a letter of, and some funders will ask for a letter of motivation, then you have to write a letter, and it's still one page, but you have to link your experience to the call, to the requirements. So for example, if the call is asking for, I don't know, something like, I'm an epidemiologist, so I always tend to go with those examples. If the call is asking for novel approaches to tuberculosis diagnosis, in your motivation letter, you have to say, I have done such and such, which has prepared me to run a project on novel approaches on TB diagnosis. So in the motivation letter, you show how prepared and how ready you are and how important it is for you to get this grant. The bio sketch is standard. It can be used anywhere for anything. Actually, for this particular workshop, I was asked for a bio sketch for publicity materials. So a bio sketch can be used anywhere, but the motivation letter has to be specific to the request that you're going for.
Okay. Kayode Adeyemi and many others would love to have the link for local and international conferences. They would like to have the link for local and international conferences. Is it possible?
That's why Google is your friend. Google is your friend for this type of things. Google is your friend. Yeah. Okay. But I will have that link for the COVID-19. I'll look for it and send it here. Actually, I just found it. Go ahead. I'm listening to the questions. Okay. I just don't forget.
Okay. Bakari, is it possible to conduct an implementation research when there is a call for grant proposal, e.g., integration of female cancer screening into family planning services?
I'm not sure I understand.
Is it possible to conduct
an implementation research when there's a particular call?
I didn't get it. If Bakari can rephrase his question, appreciate. Then Anani Baji, what to do when you do not yet have any experience in a field and want to apply for a grant?
Well, it depends on what the grant is asking for. They do have call for proposals for entry-level researchers. That does exist. Sometimes they are called capacity building grants. So they don't, for capacity building grants, they don't expect you yet to have experience. So for those specific calls, if you don't have any experience, it's okay. But grants, research grants are quite competitive. And if you don't have any experience, and you might write something that's really nice, and somebody with more experience might write something that's also very nice, they will go with somebody who has more experience. So what I would say is to go for those small grants that are out there at first, and then build your experience, join the research team, join those well-seasoned researchers and start working with them, and make yourself quite useful in the research team. And also, even when you join the research team, and I know it's difficult sometimes, and particularly for women, we tend to kind of stay back. But sometimes you just push yourself out there, push yourself in the front with your ideas within the research team, so that you can also build yourself. But if you don't have any experience at all, go for those grants, those calls that don't require experience, and join research team to build your experience.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this last question before we switch.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry, hold on one second. Bonnie, because I didn't know what else to do, I just sent you an email with that list, because I tried to cut and paste it into the chat and it didn't work. So I don't know how that can be shared. I emailed it to you.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Sylvie.
Okay. So this last question before we switch to the hands that are up, and so that they can present and interact with us. Kame Oladipo says the synopsis, as explained, resembles the executive summary as used in environmental impact assessment report. Can you comment?
Okay, well, I'm not familiar with environmental resource assessment report. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it, but yeah, it might look the same. It might look the same. A synopsis is just basically a summary, but a little bit more extensive than a summary. Because usually when you see summaries of reports, it's usually 1 page. So a synopsis is like 2 to 6 pages.
Okay, so Bonnie, I'll give you the floor so that you activate the mics of those who are willing to communicate directly and ask their questions. Over.
Okay, thanks, Leonard. Yes, so if we just go over to our attendees, a number of people have got their hands up. So if you've raised your hand, please just be ready so that we can unmute you and you can ask your question to Sylvie. So I'm going to go straight to Agatha. Agatha, I'm just going to ask you to unmute. Agatha, when you can hear us, please just let us know. Can you hear us, Agatha? You're unmuted now, Agatha, if you'd like to ask your question. Okay, we'll come back to Agatha in a moment. Barmadeli, I'm just going to offer you the same opportunity. Barmadeli, can you hear us?
Hello.
Agatha, hello, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. Actually, yeah, it is really my first time to participate in this kind of seminar. I really appreciate it. It is a friend who gave me this link. So I wanted just to present my aim and objective, so that I can have the comment from Dr. Sylvie.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it is assessing the implementation of health services prevention and promotion models on non-communicable disease in selected district health facility in Rwanda. So the first of
that's your general objective.
Come again?
That's your general objective?
Yes. So the first one, it is to analyze the health prevention and promotion practice on non-communicable disease by health professionals and health stakeholders in district healthcare services. That is the first one. The second one, it is to analyze the emerging model of health prevention and promotion on non-communicable disease in the selected district health facility. And then the third one, it is to identify the gaps in the implementation of policy practice on non-communicable disease and health prevention and promotion model. And the third one, it is to recommend an evidence-based model on non-communicable disease.
To recommend
an evidence-based model.
Okay.
On non-communicable. That is it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It's the way, since I'm not reading it, you're reading it to me, and I could follow. So it's clear. It's clear. I could follow it. I can see where you want to go, and I can see how they relate to each other. And I do like the fourth one that you have there, that not only will you assess, and then you actually propose a solution. You actually recommend a solution based on what you found in your assessment. I like that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
Actually, it is a PhD the title.
Bunny?
That's great. Thank you, Agatha. So I've just tried to unmute Sparmadelli again. And I will just unmute Aderonke. Aderonke Abba, if you can hear us. You are also welcome to ask your question, Aderonke.
Okay, good afternoon.
Hi, thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I have only wanted to present and to ask two questions. My first question is on referencing. When you are referencing a statement in a text and that person too has already referenced, and that reference is old and you don't want to use it, but you know in the process of referencing, the person has actually paraphrased. Can you now use the main sentence in the text, or you still must reference the old one?
If you're referencing a reference in another text, you should reference the original.
Even if it is paraphrased and it's old, you still have to reference.
Yeah, because it's nothing new. Paraphrasing is just another way. Yeah, it's just another way of saying what the other person said. So the newer reference has not changed what the old reference is.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's not
Thank you.
new. You might as well just use the old reference.
The old reference.
And I know that we get nervous in using references that are more than
old.
5 years old.
Yeah, it's old.
If that's all you have, then that's all you have.
Okay.
Sometimes there's just not much out there, and you do with what you have.
Okay. Then the second question is, if your research idea has actually been developed and published, can you still do something? The person has you have the research idea, but the person went ahead to develop it and publish it, and you haven't done anything. Can you still go ahead and do something about it?
Okay, so your exact same research idea was taken by somebody else, and they did the research, they have the results, and they published it. You cannot do the same thing. And that's what we were talking about before. If there's any way for you to claim that is your research idea, you should claim. I know that you have to pick your battles, but you also have to defend yourself. I have seen it done so many times. I have seen it done so many times to younger researcher, where the more established researcher will take the idea and go with it. I've seen it. And it's unfortunate, but if they knew that we would fight, they probably wouldn't do it.
Okay. Then my research work that I want to present
So I say fight if you have the proof.
To fight, okay. Then my research work, my specific and general. For my specific, I'm trying to compare the effect of Garcinia cola with chlorhexidine on herpes-simplex viral infection. Then my general will be, the specific. The first one is actually the general, to compare the effect of Garcinia cola with chlorhexidine on herpes-simplex viral infection. So the specific will be to determine the effect of Garcinia cola on herpes-simplex viral infection. Then the second would
Wait,
be to determine.
I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Go slow.
Okay.
But the first one again? The first one?
Is it for the general?
No, the general I got, the first objective.
Okay, the specific one is to determine the effect of Garcinia cola, which is a seed of a plant, on herpes simplex viral infection. And the second is to determine the effect of chlorhexidine on herpes simplex viral infection. And the third is to determine the side effects of both Garcinia cola and chlorhexidine. Am I good like that?
So is it, if I understand correctly, because it's not my field, so I couldn't write everything. So if I understand correctly, it's on the first objective, you are determining the effect of a seed. And then the second objective, you are determining the effect of what?
They are both like drugs. One is one drug, the second one is an established drug. The first one is the drug I'm trying, Garcinia cola. Then the second one is chlorhexidine mouthwash. That's a mouthwash on herpes viral simplex infection. Then the third one is to determine the side effects, because if the new drug is better, then I will recommend it, because the side effects of the second one is a lot, like staining of teeth. I am a dentist and an academia.
Okay, I see. Can you read me your main objective again? The general objective.
The main is to compare the effects of Garcinia cola with chlorhexidine on herpes simplex viral infection. That's the general one.
The reason why I asked you to read the general one again, I wanted to see, because it seems that you, like you mentioned, you are comparing two different
let's say drugs,
agents. Yes. So I wanted to see if this was reflected in your general objectives. Is it?
Yes, it's reflected to compare the effects of both on herpes viral on herpes simplex viral infection. Okay,
perfect. Then it's great. It's great. It was just hard for me to follow because I don't understand all the terms, but you see my thought process, right? In evaluate, even if I don't understand all the terms, what I was trying to make sure of is that whatever you said in your general objectives is reflected in your specific objectives, and that your specific objectives, by meeting them, they reach up to show that you have achieved your general objectives.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks, Aderonke. Okay, Sylvia, I'll just identify one more speaker for us, and then I'll hand back to Leonard just for a couple from the Q&A just to finish our session. So Kwaku Dua. I'm just going to offer you the chance to unmute. Can you hear us, Kwaku?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm Kwaku from Ghana.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. First of all, I would like to ask, from my little experience, it appears the entire research field in the health sector is skewed generally towards doctors.
It's skewed towards what?
Medical doctors.
Oh.
Is that
okay? Go ahead.
Like for very big projects, you would mostly find, or it's like as a requirement also, there must be a doctor participating on it, or even as the lead researcher. Is that assertion true?
I'm not a medical doctor. My PhD is in epidemiology, public health. If you are only looking at clinical based research, then probably, yeah, but not everything is clinical based. So I would not agree with that statement. But I've also been in situations where I had to argue that even if you're doing a study that is based in the clinic, as long as you have clinicians as collaborators and experts, you don't have to be a clinician to lead that study. But it really depends on the aims of the study and the scope of the study. But, you know, health research is quite varied. I belong to a network of women researchers for health, and we just really opened it up. That's why we don't even say health research. We said research for health, because even in agriculture, you could be doing research with the health endpoints. We actually have a lady who has a PhD in English language something, and she's part of, her research is how language is used, how language can help people living with HIV/AIDS. So it's still research for health, and she's not a scientist. So it really varies, but I do understand the question and why you asked it, because I've had to argue that in the past. But I hope it's not like written in stone that only medical doctors can lead research, because as an epidemiologist, I've lead quite a bit of research, and I have clinicians as collaborators.
Okay, then thank you. Lastly, for somebody who has finished BSc, are there often research opportunities for such a person?
Somebody who has what?
A BSc or a first degree.
Oh, like a bachelor degree?
Yes, are there often research opportunities for such a person? Thank you very much. That would be
maybe not often, but I have seen it. Maybe not a lot, but I have seen it. But for somebody who has a bachelor degree, I would say to get more experience, before trying to lead a research, get a little bit more, how do we say, notches on your belt. So yeah, but I have seen opportunities for very young students, graduate students. It's possible, but like it's not as if this is what you want to do. You definitely, if you want to establish yourself as a researcher, get more experience before going for grants.
Yes, great, thank you, Sylvie. Thanks, Kwaku. I'm just going to hand back to Leonard just to finish off with a couple from the Q&A box very quickly. I'm sorry to everyone who still has their hand raised and we just simply couldn't get to you today. As you can see, the volume of questions far outdoes our time frame, but we will endeavour to address all the questions that have come into the chat and the Q&A after the session through our hub. So please do check back for answers to those. Leonard, if I could just hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for that response from the participants, and they really posed their questions, and some of them, like Abba, they had their question also in the Q&A, which I will not repeat. Okay, we have Lenovo from the Fondation Congolaise pour la Recherche Médicale, affiliated to, she is a PhD student. My question is the following: is it possible to respond to several calls at the same period with the same proposal? That's a question.
That's not good. It's not very ethical, because you don't want to have let's say that you respond to 2 calls with the same proposal and you get the money to do the same work twice. That's not good. So if it's better to write a different proposal or to build on one. You can have one idea and then you build on it for the second proposal, but not the exact same one.
Okay, Rodrigue Machev from he said, on budgeting process during the grant writing proposal within the networks of excellence with more than 14 institutions, what should be a good approach to accommodate a historical data to bearing up to the common budget? I mean,
okay.
I believe.
I think I understand the intent of the question, and that's a good question. We have these humongous grants with dozens of institutions. How do you determine who gets what? Okay, so first, when you're writing a grant, a big grant such as that one, there are different aspects of it, different objectives, or you can see them as different work packages. So sometimes it ends up being, first, before doing the budget, you have to agree on the scope of who does what, because that's where the budget will come from. You don't say, oh, you have 10%, you have 20%, which ends up being that top-down approach that I don't like so much. It's better to agree on who does what first, negotiate that. Then once you have agreed on who does what, then each person will do their own budget, and there should be one person who coordinates all the budgets, and they'll be able to say that, okay, you agree to do X, but your budget is too much for X. So if you still want to do X, you need to reduce your budget. It's a lot of negotiations. And I have seen those negotiations going very well. I've also seen them go very bad. So it's definitely a negotiation. And if it's a team, a collaborative team, you would assume that everybody's professional and everybody's well-intentioned, and that, you know, it will be a win-win negotiation so that everybody finds their way.
Okay, this last one, before, I don't know if Ken has other questions that he earmarked that I'm not being able to notice. It's Martine Sassi. Okay, she said, please, if, thank you, blah, blah, blah. Please, if in our study we have 4 objectives and 2 of them have already been funded, do we have to submit for the funding of the other objectives?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. No, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. So let's say that you have a study. Let's say that you're doing a, I know, TB vaccine. That's me. TB vaccine research study where you have to, in order to know if a vaccine actually works, first you have to find out the incidence of the disease. Then you have to decide on the population of who you will be administering the vaccine, and as opposed to who you will not be administering the vaccine, to see the effect of the vaccine. And then you might want to, you see the effect of the vaccine, you may want, maybe you're doing a phase 1 trial, phase 2, phase 3, and then you may have to look at the acceptability of that vaccine in the community. So these are like 3 specific objectives for that main objective of evaluating the effect of the vaccine. So let's say that maybe out of those 3 objectives, you submitted for 2 specific objectives. Of course, the specific objectives, they seem big, but they can still be broken down into sub-objectives. if you have had funding for 2, the third one you can apply for another grant and get funding for the third one. Yeah, that you just have to break it down even further.
Okay, this question from Abdel Hamid from Sudan. If you have unsubmitted proposal, can you resubmit to the same grant awarding organization in the following call?
Yeah, if it was rejected.
Yes.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, if it was rejected, you're not submitting the exact same one in the exact same without changing anything. Hopefully, you get time to work. And I have done that before. Where I will submit a proposal. The first time around, it gets rejected. And then I go, because it's a recurring call every year, I go back to it, I rework it, trying to see maybe if I can improve on it. And then it gets funded. It got funded the second time. I've done that.
Okay. Okay, Fan Sapan, there are.
Oh, I'm sorry, Leo. I have to say, maybe just to make sure I'm not misunderstood. The first time it was not funded.
Yeah.
I took it, I edited, I improved on it. I submitted for the same call the next year, and it got funded. It's not that it got funded first and then I submitted, it got funded again. No, it got rejected. I improved it. I submitted it the next year. It got funded the next year. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, from Fan Sapong, there are demystifying in grant writing application, but I believe there is a successful pathway in grant writing, and I believe more communication was given by Dr. Sylvie. So it's just an appreciation and a comment. Yeah, that's not actually a question.
Yeah, it's definitely not to be. It should be demystified.
Okay, Rebecca Ege. Many thanks for a wonderful presentation and world knowledge shared. My question though is, does Cantam as an institute have a platform team where young entry-level professional without experience can exercise the knowledge acquired from this training to build their skills, more like a mentorship program with real practical proposal writing? That's the question of Rebecca Egbe.
Yeah, but it's a question for Cantam. So it's a question for you.
Yeah, Rebecca, actually, Cantam has the website, cantam.org, where you can pose your questions, and the project managers are there to assist wherever we can help. And we are also a funding institution. We are not funders. So we receive funds from EDCP, and there are PIs whereby you can engage with one of the PIs. It's like the entry pathway for Cantam through the PIs from the different institutions and countries. You can link up with the PIs, and then you'll be able to communicate with the Cantam network. And to be a mentor, a mentee, it's very easy. So with that, you can contact us, and then we will get to you with more details on how you can proceed. Yeah, I think that's the best I can give for Rebecca. Ken, I don't know if you're there. If you have some questions that are left, and if we have some time, I think you can brush on them. Then
just two more.
All right. Yes. Go
one
ahead.
of them is coming from Charles Luanga from Kenya. Charles Luanga said, could you please expound on the protection of intellectual property? For example, if I have an idea, I have shared it in some meeting verbally, how do I protect it from being taken over by someone else?
Okay, that's definitely a big question, and you should learn about intellectual property. What I can say here, and there are, like I said, Google is your friend, so try to learn more about intellectual property. But you have to have proof. You have to have proof. You can't just say, "Oh, it was my idea." How do you prove it? That's why you have to record and document what you're doing with a stamp date on what you're doing. And if you share it in a realm where it can be, the sharing can be recorded and documented. That's the only way you'll have proof. Because even if you go and try to fight, they will ask you to prove. So how do you prove it? So make sure you document what you're doing, your ideas, and you document how the ideas are shared. And if look within your institution, if there's a process of actually trying to make such claims. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Ken.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the next one is coming from Okware Fabian. Fabian wants to know, what can someone do if the funding that was availed for a project was not enough? Should they use their own funding and ask for a refund or request for more funds to complete the project?
So it's hard for me to understand that the funding is not enough, because the way I spoke about budgeting yesterday, if you're budgeting in a systematic way, and you're doing it well, your funding should suffice, or you should get close. Now, using your own funding, like your own personal funding, if you have that money and you're a philanthropist, if you're a philanthropist, okay. But I don't have that kind of money, so I don't think I can do that. I would not do that either. Asking for more money, you can try, but I have never been in a position where the funder even allowed to ask for more money. So the key is to really be careful with how you manage your scope of work with the money that you have.
Thank you. Thank you. The very last one is Fombi Ibinda. Ibinda want to know, as a researcher, how do you exercise yourself to writing in order to be able to materialize an idea in a good way for proposal or grant application?
I'm not sure I understood. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, let me repeat. As a researcher, how do you exercise yourself to writing in order to be able to materialize an idea in a good way for proposal or grant application?
Oh, so how do you exercise your own writing in order to improve your writing? That's what I'm getting from the question. Practice, 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 practice. You have to write, and read other research for proposals. I can't even imagine how things were 20, 25 years ago without the internet. I forgot. I'm so used to using it as a tool, and there's so much out there. Read what other people are doing. Take more extensive workshops. There are all these classes out there that are free. What do they call them? I think they call them MOOCs, M-O-C, like Coursera. There's so much out there, these free classes online. The only one I can think of now is Coursera. Let me see if I can write it down. Coursera. Okay, yeah. So if you maybe look at FutureLearn, thank you. So there's so many. You can find free courses in grant writing that will help you exercise some more and practice some more.